Hi, friends. Uh, this morning, a very interesting thing happened. I was on a call. I finished my call and I started surfing my phone. Uh, I was waiting for someone at the time. Meanwhile, I kept jumping app to app, playing a game on one, communicating with someone on another. And for a second, I realized that I was uncomfortable sometime earlier, before all of this happened. And I was trying to remember what was I uncomfortable about. And that thought hadn't completed itself. The emotion was, some remnants were still there. My heart was still feeling a little clenched. And I was thinking, why am I feeling this? And where did this come from? And I had no clue. And uh, till the evening, I don't remember what was the discomfort about. And between then and now, I must have spent a lot of time in a lot of different ways of communication, or either being at the end, receiving end of it, watching something, or else talking to people, chatting on work, uh, and other things. And this brings me to the topic of the day, which is something on the lines of complete that thought. And again, I realize there are times when I think I have completed it and am quite uh, at peace with it. And then there is some other rumbling that comes up, and then I realize I may have another point of view that has come up from either me or somebody else. So, welcome to this conundrum of incomplete thoughts to the Values Workshop podcast. I have with me one of my evergreen favorites, Hemant Gupta. Welcome to the show, Hemant.
Thank you, Banti, once again. Thank you so much.
Uh, this feeling that I did not complete my thought has has left me a little weirdly incomplete is the word actually. I don't know where to finish it because I was uncomfortable. I knew, I sensed it later also, and I completely forgot what was the topic that was making me unhappy or uncomfortable. So while my body remembered, my mind had completely skipped the thought in the random rush of things. And while I've been doing quite a few topics on social media and the use of mobile phones, this is not so much about the technology itself, which is obviously a part of this, but just the pace at which uh, I'm operating at and doing multiple things all at once. How do you calm down and complete any one thing? Do you take this topic as important, uh, and how do you view it?
I think, as usual, this is a beautiful invocation uh, to co-hold and co-sense, Banti.
Sure.
Um, it's interesting the way you worded them. You had this feeling about the incomplete thought. So there is this distinction that we already drew with that. There is something called as feeling that we have, and then there is something called as thought, different from the feeling. And that there is this category of thoughts that are in some form of coherence or completeness, and then there are these thoughts that are not in coherence or incompleteness, and there's a relationship that they have with us or our feelings. So sometimes we have a certain kind of feeling with completeness. There is certain times we have a certain feeling with incompleteness. A case in point is, imagine you go to, let's say, you go for a summer vacation and a vacation, or you're going for a, let's say, few days of interactions or meeting or experience which you've longed for, and you've been doing it. Now here is a case when that whole thing is coming to end, that vacation is coming to end, uh, and maybe just about to complete or just completed. So there is completion of some kind, and you have a feeling with it. You become a little discomforted, and you long for more of that. In that sense, there was completeness, but not completeness the way you wanted. You wanted more of it,
Yeah.
and yet there could be some completeness.
Okay.
And there are some certain things where we can distinctly say it's incomplete. So imagine, you went on the same trip, but you had to halfway rush back. Uh, Now that's another way you can say it's, not only the trip was incomplete, but the overall also, you longed for more and you wanted more time or more such thing. So I think, as has been the case in most of our interactions on the values workshop, I think as humans, uh, we are very miser about nuances. We're not very serious about nuances of life. And sometimes, or maybe we are just too busy with some other things and we have nuances somewhere else. And these are places where we haven't nuanced them enough. So let's put it this way. So the moment you go closer and see it in a more nuanced manner, sort of a high definition TV, then you start seeing the kaleidoscope very differently, versus a black and white TV on which we watch something. So that's my first invocation. Um, the second invocation is, there is this interesting story about Shwet Ketu in ancient wisdom. Apparently, Shwet Ketu's dad sends him to some Gurukul to learn Vedas and the deeper existence, deeper knowledge. He comes back after a long period of spending time in the Gurukul with the concerned teacher. He comes back and he's having a meal with his father, and his father says, his father actually asks Shwet Ketu, uh, would you want to continue your studies or do you want to get married? And Shwet Ketu replies and says, uh, not until I have won the Janak Ki Sabha. So in those days, Janak Sabha used to be that contestation of ideas and Shastrarth, where people would come and discuss their belief systems and their experience systems, and then there would be contestation around it. It was very revered in those times. So the moment Shwetketu actually responded in this way, I want to win that sabha, his father was very surprised. And his father said, uh, huh, all this while you've been gathering tons and tons of information and knowledge and stuff, but you've still not got the essence. And the idea was, uh, in his words, the idea was, if you know the mud, then anything that you create from the mud, you're able to understand it. If you know the gold, anything you create with the gold, you understand it. So, what is it that if you know, you understand most of the other things, or perhaps everything?
Ma-
And in some profound way, what the person is hinting at is, all this while in our journey in our life, we've been borrowing words, we've been borrowing concepts, and we've been just sort of this sort of a storage room inside. It doesn't look like a drawing room where you can invite someone. It's not nicely decorated. It's a mess, and we don't even know where to look. Heaps and heaps of stuff that we've stored, experiences and concepts and language. Um, so so the thing is that, uh, this sense of mindless completions and mindless incompletions is what we're dealing with, not mindful completions and mindful incompletions. And I believe that when you're on the journey, you become a little more mindful about the kind of completions that seem completions, but they are incomplete. And then you would come across a lot of incompletions that might be complete in some other way. Um, so it sounds a little abstract, but that's what my first submissions would be.
you kind of preempted a bit of the question I was wanting to get into.
Okay.
Uh, so I wanted to go back to the genesis of the discomfort I had, and it went to almost the last line of what your answer was. Uh, some completions are incomplete, and some incompletions might have a bit of completion in them. Uh, is the only reason for discomfort that I want to have control over things?
Could be framed that way. And then, we'll have to go a little slow and ask, uh, is it because? So that's one category. So we are trying to create cause and effect, categorization, linear causality. And then we're also, if we become mindful, I want to have control. So then there has to be some understanding of the nature of I. Who's this I? At what level do we understand this I? And then the whole idea of wanting something, where do these wants come from? What are the different kinds of wants and categories of wants? And is there a meta category which is about, wanting? Is wanting itself what we are constantly, we are constantly wanting, 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 wanting. And then maybe control is the best thing that we can grasp. And then we say, okay, we want control. So, so I would go a little slower in that sense.
Okay. Uh, you have actually thrown up three, four questions or maybe ways of thought that one can pursue this. But I want to come back to one interesting thing I was hearing and I have not understood it fully. I need to specify that. There was a talk by Nyanmoli Thero yesterday, uh, in which he says you have to stop looking at the specifics of where the craving arises and look at the framework itself. That the framework is that of craving. So the manifestations will give you contradictory answers. This is what I kind of loosely understood. But he says that that's why you need to understand the framework and really study it in deep. Where is this arising, and then you will be able to really work on yourself or the subject you've chosen of studying the self. Obviously, you said something similar as of right now. What I understood of it. Um, I don't want to get into the I and the want thing right now because those are deep subjects by themselves. I mean, we can do hours and hours of talking and it wouldn't be enough. But to stick to a superficial line of thought as of right now, uh, is control, and I'm now putting it together with the want thing uh, because I'm not dissecting it as different as of right now because I don't have an idea about that. But say want is control. I want this, so together put, this is how Bunty wants things to be. Um, is that a way of survival? Because without that, I feel threatened.
Yeah, in that sense, yes. I mean, we aren't human beings yet. I think we are animal beings that are trying to be humans or deceiving ourselves to be human. And all those animal instincts are alive in us. Those basal instincts of survival are alive in us. And in that sense, those could be the driving forces for the word force itself is, it's a force, it's a want of a kind. In the sense, uh, I would not stop right now and ask whether gravity is a control mechanism or not. It is in some sense. Gravity of is creating a condition for me to do something and not to do something. It's a condition. Gravity is a condition. And whether I
Yes.
like it or not, gravity doesn't go away if I disagree with the concept of gravity. It is going to exist. Uh, Similarly, I think these mechanisms exist. The animalistic mechanisms exist. The life form has its own processes to exist, to continue as a life form from moment to moment to moment. Um, Reproduction, food, shelter, all kinds of things. And then there are stacks and stacks of other feature functionalities added to it, which makes up society in some sense or interpersonal equations. So, uh, yeah, I'll halt here if that helps.
Yeah, because I wanted to interject and ask you something. Is there a way to study it independent of ourselves? Is there a way to study what you said is uh, is nature, for want of a better term, uh,
Um,
without
yeah.
self-referencing it.
I don't know whether I understood the question, but if the question is anybody, so let's say there are two people, one claiming yes, you can study it independent, and the other person says you cannot study independent. Honestly, these two schools do exist in the world right now. And even in the modern disciplines, there are thinkers in complexity science and systems thinking where this is the argument that, so for example, a classic case is imagine you have a client and you're a consultant to the client. Now, the typical approach that people feel is I'm a consultant, I'm outside the organization, here is an organization. I am independent observer of the organization, hence I have an independence. But under some school of thought, they would reject this framing. They would say that there is no way you will be outside of that, because the moment you are looking at it, there is an interplay happening which you're not aware of it. And so if your favorite color is blue and the logo of the company is blue, or they create products that have a lot of blue packaging, I'm just giving an example. You would not know in the ways that it is affecting your judgment and biases, and hence how that is affecting your consultation with them. Um, so, so there is a school of thought that believes that there is no such thing as independent observer, and there is another school which says there is a possibility of independent observer, Vivek, kind of thing. So I think it depends on the kind of belief system you believe in, and then you can have your own tribe that believes in it, and then you have your experiments of truth along with that tribe and live this life.
Okay, I have a provocative question here for you personally because every time I ask you a question, there is this balanced point of view. Either because of how you approach it, so you always have both sides of view put in between, and um, so isn't life about taking decisions? So if I am at a crossroads and I have to take one road in particular, for every road I take, I leave the other road, isn't it? So how do you gauge in your personal preference in such scenarios?
I think if we use the filter of decisions, the decision is the lens that I'm looking at. So is Hemant currently choosing the words? There are decisions, right? But it's happening at a very lower level. It's not available right now to me unless I access it. How's the next word in the next sentence and the next meaning coming? So there are layers and layers of decision making. And of course, over a period of time, they've got conditioned and there is a kind of a coherence and sort of thing, and it immediately produces the next line as a supposed answer to your question. So, but did I invent grammar? No. Did I? Uh, how did my teacher teach me grammar? And was there some kind of hardware that existed inside of me to learn grammar? I don't know. So I think we exist if decision is the criteria. We exist in a sea of decisions by self and the others without really knowing which one maps to which, except to the extent that we believe we have the intellectual capability to find out कि हाँ ये इससे connected है और वो जरूरी है लाइफ में क्योंकि थोड़ा जीवन उसी से निर्वाह होगा. But I think if I believe in the school where we need to be humble that I should look at the waves and enjoy the waves, but I should be aware wave is nothing but a manifestation of the ocean. And if I should not lose sight of the ocean, which is not accessible in the form of waves, but it exists.
Okay. Um, I had a very amusing thought while you were saying this because I was saying, are we completing the thoughts question by question, or are we meandering into other areas of uh, uh, philosophy or understanding or truths and not completing it? And that seemed a very amusing way to look at how we are building upon this. Just one interesting story to correlate to what you said in the earlier thing. There is this Zen thing that if a tree falls in a forest and there is no one to see it, has it really fallen? And effectively, yes, Mani, there are times in life when you may think, yes, it has fallen, but well, there is no observer to it, so we didn't know that it existed, we didn't know that it grew, we don't know that it fell. It doesn't seem to have any reality, could be an imaginative thing as well. When you answered this present question, one of the thoughts that struck me is uh, how fragile is this whole. I'm not even talking about the Values Workshop podcast. It doesn't exist as far as anything is concerned. It's fairly fragile and very, very the speck of a speck of a speck, if there is anything like that. But just that our prism of looking at life, our understanding and our assumptions are so many because of what you said about language, and we may not know where the word came from, and uh, there is this whole cleverness about, oh, I get this. We are in a hurry to reach that completion also in our own heads. Okay, I know, I understand this concept, and there is so much that you have to live to really understand, and then you may not have the words also. Very often silence is obviously a lot more of a profound teacher than all our clever words are or intellectual understandings are. How does one, while using this great gift of communication we've got, whatever the reasons and however it has reached us, the grammar, the words, the intellectuality, the formation of thoughts in a certain manner, the upbringing that we've got through our parents, through the society, and through the world in general, the times that we are born in, the biases for and against that we are living with there are layers and layers of uh, the questionnaire here and and the answerer as well. So now, but the study is of trying and finding a truth that resonates with all of us. Uh, this is too deep a question, but I'll try and frame it. So the idea is there are words which can express some kinds of truths. There is the truth by itself, which may be independent of what we understand or what we don't understand in our ignorance. How does one bridge this gap and come upon certain truths that are relatable and so while we are animals trying to be human beings, like you said, in a large way, how do we bridge this gap and become more human, more, somebody would want to say more divine. Well, that concept does not exist in my head. I think everything is divine or it isn't. But just the connect of living the truth, understanding it in a wholesome manner if possible. How would you see that?
I need to understand the question a bit more. Um, are you, let me restate and tell me if I've got your questions right. Are you saying that we have to use words, we have to use concepts, we have to get through the day, get through the meal, get through the paychecks, interact with people, uh, take something from them, give them, have these kind of, exchanges, and it has a certain system of use, symbol systems, and what we do with them. Symbols, by symbol system, I mean anything which is a symbol, a language or visual or anything.
Yeah.
Uh, so I would actually invoke a gentleman called Dr. Himmat Sinha. I think in one of the podcasts we mentioned this, where he talks about three kinds of truth: the pratibhasit true satya, vyavaharik satya, and paramarthik satya. Now, again, depending on the belief system that you have, you might have only two or three of these, or maybe a fourth, also. So let's, just for the sake of simplicity, imagine that there are these three truths. Pratibhasit Satya is, so let's say we are having this interaction right now, you and me, Bunty. Now you have a first person subjective experience of how this is going for you. And I have a first person subjective experience right now of how this is going for me. That's a Pratibhasit. As in, मुझे आभास हो रहा है वो, मेरी अनुभूति है, it is my experience. And similarly, आपका experience अभी हो रहा होगा, subjective experience. But then as that is happening, there is also this exchange happening. We are still using those conceptual landscape and the linguistic landscape and all of that. We are doing that. So his point was that to the extent that you're clearer about your mission on the planet, you will have to have some engagement with the social truths or the social systems of exchange in order that you achieve some of those resources, opportunities, incentives. And while you do that, you may still have certain experiences and first person subjective anubhuti experience. And then they may not directly map and they may not directly coherent. You'll have to create your own practices to ensure what do you want to do with your own self and the others. Again, others would mean, you can do, so if I'm your friend, then I could do a little more with you in terms of refining the way we interact. But there are places where you can't. You have to just go by, like if you go to an airport, you won't be able to change the security check-ins because that's something that won't change because you don't like it. So in that sense, I think there are these truth for the sake of truth. So imagine there is something called as instrumental truth and intrinsic truth. An instrumental truth is already asking a question for what? Truth of what and truth for what? And unless we wrestle with this, we may have all kinds of truth and we may just keep running with it. So I don't know whether I addressed what you wanted or maybe.
Yeah, I didn't want anything. I'm also as surprised by the question as the viewers might be, because I'm just trying to think, am I going too philosophical, too much on the edge of thought? I'm trying to bring in some kind of coherence to what the thought is. So I had a very nice example when you started answering, and but you had already started answering, so I'll share that with you. So there is a website called dailyzen.com which shares Zen poetry every day, and it has very fundamentally simplistic view of life kind of thing, because obviously these are Zen poems. So I remember one particular favorite. I cannot quote it verbatim because those were 8-10 lines, but I can tell you what was there. So there is this monk trying to reach. So the poem is written by the monk who's unavailable on the mountain in that hut where this guy is going to meet him. So he goes, he sees the stream, he sees the twigs and the broken branches and the leaves and the lawns, whatever is grass, the river flowing by, the rocks. He reaches the place, he sees the hut, he sees that there's no one there, and he comes down and he writes that, sorry, I should have missed you, but I didn't. And it just transports me to a place which is very hard to explain in words. Because just this thought of, yes, I am sorry, I am supposed to have missed you, but I didn't, because I almost met you with this, where you live is what you are, and I have experienced you in a manner where I don't even need you to. So in romantic kind of love, very often there is this whole thought of Ranja Ranja kar di main aape Ranja hoye. So the whole thought being that I don't even need you anymore because I am completely submerged, or you are completely inside me now. There is nothing. Obviously there is also the bhakti kind of love There is a Sufi kind of love which talks about these things only. But I'm talking about the natural experience of being. And my truth based question came from there, that we have these relative truths which we are living, which are dependent on language, which are dependent on some feeling, good or bad, does not really matter. And that's what I thought last night's talk by Nyan Molithero that I was watching was coming from, where he says you have to look at the framework where it is abiding, the whole craving or desire thing, because you can keep looking at manifestations and keep going very close to the topic, and you may lose your way. You have to understand that this stands independent and it is part of your person as you are. So while we are, like you rightly pointed out, we could be on both sides of the fence, sometimes this side or that side, or both at once, or none of them at once, and yet we exist, and there is this series of complete feelings or complete understanding or completeness that we have. My uh, question was, do you resonate with this series of thoughts that I've shared? And if you do, is there a logical or is there a comprehensible way of reaching this space which may then not need words?
Can you rephrase that, Bunty, the question? Sorry if
Sure. So there is a story that came to me. Sadhguru has mentioned in one of his talks that he had met somebody while on his way to Kailash, and both of them went and they had some kind of exchange. They were sitting silently and they came up. So somebody asked him, so what really happened there? He says, we both looked into each other's bags and found there was nothing new. So we kind of stayed silent and just went our way. That was the complete meeting. Now, while obviously there is a lot of hypothesis there, we wouldn't know what he's referring to, but whatever little bit I understand of things is that there are times when silence is complete in itself. But to reach that part requires a lot of letting go of preconceived notions about a lot of things, including ourselves, our thoughts, and what makes us, as well as obviously the study of the world that we have so far. My first part of the question was, do you resonate that yes, these are things that you've thought about or you've experienced in some manner? Second, if yes, then is there a comprehensible way of going there in your eyes?
yeah. So my own personal belief is कर्म योग, ज्ञान योग, bhakti योग, dhyan योग are all paths. They're all path for the search and the yearning.
Can you speak up a little?
As in volume, you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying कर्म योग, ज्ञान योग, भक्ति योग, ध्यान योग, या और भी किसी form of योग are all paths. Can words get you there? Can actions get you there? Can feelings get you there? Can thoughts get you there? Can silence get you there? Of course, they can all get you there. There are two aspects to it. One is getting there, and then what do you do once you got there and you're again interacting with the world, right? So there is the aspect of realization or experiencing that, and then there is the aspect of the actualization. For example, hypothetically, if we say someone's realized and now is interacting, how would that interaction be different post the realization? Uh, my personal experience is that if you've had deeper experiences and then you work towards ensuring that this happening here and now has that in this also, so that realization is not a spark that has gone off, it actually continues to live in the next word, the next attempt, uh, how I understand you, how I receive you, what we create together, why are we creating it, all of that. And whether that is done again with silence with someone, or through activity, or through words, or through feelings, or through thoughts, is they are again path. So the path, there are multiple paths to realization. There are multiple paths to sharing of it in some manner with the other, and then living your life. And in each of them, all of these are possibilities.
Okay, I'll share a story. I was thinking whether I should or I shouldn't. So there was this person called Ramesh Balsekar. Um, I think fundamentally his teaching was cosmic consciousness. Everything is cosmic consciousness. He was the ex-president of a bank, and uh, there was a magazine called Life Positive that had something about him, and I had read uh, something there, and I told my friend, here is a guy who claims to have realized whatever the ultimate realization is. Let's go and figure out how he lives. What is it that is different in him that is not in us? Just to see that. Uh, so we went, we reached late, and there was almost the last question going, and there was a bunch of foreigners. This was South Bombay in his flat, and he was talking, and he was a whatever 85, 90-year-old guy at that point of time, and literally his skin was falling off his bones, and he had this like you have a mic, uh, but his voice was booming and clear. There was no ambiguity there, and the question that some foreigner asked was, "What do you have to say about free will?" So he says, when you wake up in the morning uh, and you have to do the do, is that free will or is that your compulsion? And I laughed, loving the answer so much. While the question was asked with a lot of earnestness, he answered it in a manner which kind of threw the question back at all of us, how we saw things. And it ended there, and each of us could go and pay our respects to him. And what I realized was, say you were paying respects to him, and he was sitting in a chair which was below us, so you had to kneel down to pay your respects. And while you were paying respects, his eyes would not meander here and there. It was just focused on. If ever I have seen any human being on earth who's living the moment fully, I haven't seen anybody like that except for him, where he was fully into you in that moment. And so much so that because I was so close, I was the next person behind you, and somebody came and spoke to him. Um, your time is up. You need to come and have breakfast or whatever. Some person from the home only. And when he looked at that person, he wasn't looking at you at all. There is not the remnant of something that needs to be completed. He just stopped you then and there and looked at that person, answered and had his conversation there. Then again he looked at you. There was no, it was like these are separate still shots, not a moving image. And it's really a big deal. I haven't seen anybody, including myself, of course, that I can live in the moment as much as that. And then, of course, we spoke to him and we said we want to still pay our respects. And he had already walked off, and I walked behind him and asked, So at that point, I don't know if you're aware, you're not supposed to touch the feet of anyone on the when there is a door. So you need to either go inside the room or stay outside. You can't be halfway through. For some reason, that's a funda that I was told about, and he went inside the room to remove his slippers. We were standing in the lobby of his house. So while he was removing his slippers, he was doing nothing else. As if the question that we had asked him, which he had said yes to, didn't exist. He came back, and again that whole scenario repeated itself, where he was fully in the moment while he was doing whatever he was doing with me, blessing me or whatever that happened. Same with my friend. So he didn't look here, there, his attention didn't wander anywhere, it was just there. And there was a sense of, you could feel he wasn't carrying anything. Our bodies seem rigid in comparison. His body, while it was weaker than all of ours, but there was nothing that he was carrying. It had kind of left itself. Uh, Unfortunately, he passed away some time back, but this remains one of the better experiences that I've had with meeting people like those. Obviously, there have been other people who are good, but this is where I could experience it fully. Maybe I was more alert or whatever. But yeah, this is the story I wanted to share. Also, while narrating this story, I realized there is what completion means. So there was incompleteness when he was blessing the person ahead of me, and when the lady or whoever came to speak to him, saying, "Okay, it's time for your breakfast. Enough. Now come up." So when he was looking at her, this interaction was incomplete, but for him it was complete. He didn't have to again think, "Oh, I will do this or do that." There was nothing more to add to the moment or take away from it, and which is something that you kind of very subtly pointed out, that all these manners of being could be equally valid at different points of time. Um, I personally don't want to ask anything, because this whole idea of completion, incompletion has come to a very nice point of completion as this moment is. If you want to make any final comments, please. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hemant, and this has been a wonderful session. And
Thank you.
like always, very wonderful co-exploration of ideas that are very difficult to uh, imagine and individually walk on sometimes, because one doesn't know when one is meandering or any genuine wisdom is coming up. Not that I'm gauging that this is wisdom or that isn't. It just is what it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you. Thank you.
And see you soon. Yeah.